Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast, the Senate Finance Committee continues to hear testimony from various government agencies. On Thursday, Bureau of Internal Revenue officials defended its budget for fiscal year 2017 and also gave updates on challenges, accomplishments at the Bureau, and employee morale. News 2's April Knight has more.
The Bureau of Internal Revenue needs $13 million for fiscal year 2017. That's according to BIR Director Marvin Pickering. Members of the Senate Finance Committee took the opportunity to get updates on tax collection challenges. Senator Clifford Graham, who chairs the committee, asked about property owners renting out private villas and residences on websites like Airbnb and not paying taxes.
We have reached out to Airbnb and the, can't remember the other one. We have indicated to them that, that they're required to file and pay the hotel occupancy taxes.
Senator Samuel Sanis pointed out that there might be a need to tighten the definition of an employee in the Virgin Islands to avoid losing revenue.
There are companies, some construction companies included, that they make the employees fill out 1099 forms. And this practice has been going on for many years here, especially with certain construction companies. And we got to bring this out to light because there are revenues that are being lost in that process.
But Pickering said it's already well defined as it is.
The significant factor, if you have control of that person, you know, when they to report to work, what they're supposed to do, whether you provide tools and equipment for them to do their job.
HR Director Ophelia Hector also reported that employee morale at the Bureau is higher now after the recent increase in wages.
5 being the highest, you said. So in St. Thomas, St. John District, it will be 4 3/4. St. Croix, 4 1/2.
For News 2, I'm April Knight.
Also at the Senate on Thursday was the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency, or VITEMA. VITEMA's director, Mona Barnes, said the actual operating budget for fiscal year 2017 is almost $12 million, but the agency seeks about $5.1 million from the general fund. Barnes also spoke about VITEMA personnel. Here's more.
VITEMA's 4 major divisions are administration and finance, grants management, planning and preparedness, and operations, with oversight of the 911 emergency system and the Virgin Islands Office of Homeland Security. VITEMA has 82 funded positions, 53 classified and 29 unclassified. I am pleased to announce that every employee within the agency has received a salary increase with the exception of the senior staff.
It's a little quieter now at the House of Representatives, but Wednesday morning, there was a rare display of dramatic politics. House Democrats staged a sit-in to demand gun control legislations. VI Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett was in the thick of it, standing firmly with her Democratic colleagues. News 2's April Knight has the story.
Some 200 House Democrats were on the floor yesterday morning, literally, and VI Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett was one of them.
Owning a gun is not something that I believe should not happen, but I know that it's not an absolute right.
Plaskett sat beside her Democratic colleagues pushing for gun control legislation after the Orlando shooting that killed 49 people. The Republican-controlled House had already adjourned, but Democrats led by Georgia Rep. John Lewis said, no bill, no break.
We're calling on the leadership of the House to bring common sense gun control legislation to the House floor.
With the House cameras turned off as part of protocol, Democrats turned to social media to give the world a glimpse of what was going on in chambers. Now, Republicans have argued that mass shootings cannot be solved by more gun control, but by greater economic opportunities and a stronger education system for children. But Delegate Plaskett points out how partisan politics keeps those things from happening.
But we know measures to increase funding for these programs that will help will never reach this floor. But we know also that now that the Republicans refuse to take up other measures as well.
Plaskett faces competition in the November elections, with former VI Senate President Ronald Russell eyeing a congressional seat. Gordon Ackley, the VI GOP nominee for Congress, accused Plaskett of, quote, petty political stunts that dishonor the victims of the horrific Orlando terrorist attack. The Democrat sit-in ended around 2 p.m. Thursday afternoon. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
On the lighter side, in a show of solidarity, Democratic senators supported their House colleagues through the long night by sending them snacks and drinks, according to reports. Well, here's more on that marathon effort for House Democrats who staged that sit-in on Capitol Hill over gun control. Dozens of members spent the night in the House chamber, as we just mentioned, even after Republicans adjourned until July. Stacey Cohen has that story.
It's over. More than 24 hours after Democrats staged a sit-in on the House floor, they're calling it a success. It started Wednesday around 11:15 a.m.
There comes a time when you have to say something, when you have to make a little noise.
Participants were trying to force Republicans to vote on a series of gun control measures that had already failed in the Senate. Some held signs with images of victims of mass shootings. Others began to chant shame and to sing the civil rights era tune, "We Shall Overcome." But Republican members refused to bring the issue to the floor. In the middle of the night, Republicans had had enough. They called a recess until July 5th, shutting down the cameras and lights in the chamber. About 10 to 20 Democrats remained, continuing to broadcast their protest on social media. Republicans called it a publicity stunt without real substance. House Speaker Paul Ryan.
The reason I call this as a stunt is because they know this isn't going anywhere. It already failed in the Senate.
As the sit-in ended, an exhausted House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said the fight is just beginning.
This isn't about politics. It's not about elections. It's not about campaigns. It's about the safety of the American people.
In Washington, I'm Stacey Cohen.
More than half of the fatal victims stemming from that shooting, the shooting in Orlando, were of Puerto Rican descent. Rolando Padua, Deputy Secretary of the State for Puerto Rican Government, said 90% of the victims are Latinos and that more than half of the dead victims are of Puerto Rican origin. About 24 media organizations, meanwhile, including the Associated Press, CNN, and the New York Times, have filed a lawsuit seeking disclosure of the City of Orlando phone recordings stemming from the Pulse nightclub shooting. That lawsuit, filed Thursday, claims city officials are wrongly withholding recordings of dozens of 911 calls, as well as communications between gunman Omar Mateen and the Orlando Police Department. Mateen was killed by police early June 12 after that lengthy standoff in the mass shooting that killed 49 victims. The lawsuit says there is public interest in understanding how events transpired that night, including the timing and tactics of police. Other big news in Washington: the Supreme Court on Thursday announced that it had deadlocked in a case challenging President Obama's immigration plan, a sharp blow to an ambitious program that Obama had hoped would become one of his central legacies. As a result, as many as 5 million undocumented immigrants will not be shielded from deportation or allowed to legally work in the United States. The 4-4 deadlock, which left in place an appeals court ruling blocking the plan, amplified the already contentious election year debate over the nation's immigration policy and presidential power. The case, United States versus Texas, number 15-674, concerned an executive action by the president. It was called Deferred Action for Parents of Americans and Lawful Permanent. Here's more.
Today's decision on immigration is a big blow to the Obama administration's executive actions. In 2014, Obama announced that more than 4 million undocumented immigrants could now apply for temporary work permits that would prevent them from being deported. The status of those 4 million people is now up in the air. That's because the Supreme Court announced it deadlocked on this case 4-4.
The fact that the Supreme Court wasn't able to issue a decision today doesn't just set the system back even further. It takes us further from the country that we aspire to be.
House Speaker Paul Ryan had a very different take.
This is a win for the Constitution, it's a win for Congress, and it's a win in our fight to restore the separation of powers. Presidents don't write laws, Congress writes laws.
The case now goes back to the lower court's ruling, which blocked the program last year. The other big Supreme Court decision today is a major victory for supporters of affirmative action. The case was originally brought by a woman who claimed she had been denied admission to the University of Texas because she was white. The Supreme Court upheld the affirmative action admissions program at the university, saying it is constitutional to take race into account as a factor in deciding who to admit to the university. Reporting in Washington, I'm Scott McLean.
Veteran U.S. diplomat Tom Shannon spoke for nearly 2 hours with Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro on Wednesday to restart relations between the ideologically opposed governments amid a punishing economic crisis in the South American nation. Economic conditions have become so bad in Venezuela that Venezuelans are ransacking grocery stores, even though many are largely empty. A Venezuelan monitoring group, Observatory for Violence, says there are about 10 lootings per day around the country, with food riots sometimes turning deadly. 4 people were killed during separate incidents last week as looters clashed with security forces. More than 400 people were arrested in the coastal city of Cumana, which was briefly placed under a curfew after 20 stores were cleaned out. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. According to the numbers there, we can see everything up. The Dow 230, NASDAQ 76, S&P 500 up 27. Coming up on News 2, the Virgin Islands Department of Labor's job fair kicked off today at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center on St. Thomas. The primary goal of the job fair was to connect recent college, university, and all high school graduates with businesses who have current employment opportunities. Now, another event is coming up. Details on that one. Welcome back. In this week's Crime Stoppers report, officers need your help as they continue to investigate this recent shooting. Here's more.
On June 20th at about 5:44 a.m., police responded to a shooting in the area of Tutu High Rise. Upon arrival, police made contact with an unresponsive male who was later identified as 42-year-old Devon Freeman. Mr. Freeman succumbed to his injuries on the scene. Please help police with any information that you may have on this matter. Your assistance in helping the Virgin Islands Police Department solve this matter is greatly appreciated. If you have any information pertaining to this incident, please notify Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIP.
Here's an update. The Charles Hallwood complex was opened today on St. Croix. One day after an early closure, the Department of Health has resolved the AC issue. All staff reported to work and services resumed as usual. The Department of Health successfully saw patients early on Wednesday. However, due to the air conditioning issues, non-essential staff were allowed to leave early. Technicians were on site for the rest of the day. CNN has reported that National Frozen Food Corp has issued a voluntary recall of both frozen peas and mixed vegetables because the products may have been contaminated. Veggies packed under the brands Bountiful Harvest, First Street, Great Value, Live Smart, Market Pantry, and Sprout between September 2nd and June 2nd are affected. Now, that full list of more than 40 recalled products is available on the FDA's website. The affected product was sold at Whole Foods Market locations in Southern California, Nevada, and Arizona on June 16th and 17th. The FDA says there has not been any reports of consumers being sickened by the product. Listeriosis generally presents with fever, muscle aches, and gastrointestinal symptoms. Well, as we reported, also the latest Zika surveillance report states no new cases. The first vaccine aimed at stemming the spread of the Zika virus is expected to start its first phase of human trials in the coming weeks. The FDA has approved the first human test of the experimental Zika virus vaccine called GLS-5700. The companies did not say exactly when the trials will start. If the vaccine is successful, it's unclear how long it would take for that to hit the market. The Virgin Islands Department of Labor's job fair kicked off today at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center on St. Thomas. They say the primary goal of the job fair is to connect recent college, university, and all high school graduates with businesses that have current employment opportunities. Here's more.
This is our second annual Keep Our Virgin Islands Graduates in the Virgin Islands Job Fair, and it's primarily geared for those who are college graduates or high school graduates who are looking to transition into the field of work. Again, we have over 25 employers who are looking to bridge that gap between employer and job seeker, and hopefully we can get some gainful employment out of this experience here today.
I'm very honored to be here today because it is very important to keep our graduates in the Virgin Islands. I'm here interning with the VI Police Department, and I can say I'm really enjoying my experience. So I hope that a lot of college students do make the effort to come back and work for our government, because it is very important to keep our graduates in the VI.
We're here at the Department of Labor to keep our graduates in the VI job fair, and what we're looking for is a lot of good men and also women to continue joining our police ranks. I know a lot of you sometimes, you're not sure exactly what career you want to go into, but I will always tell any youth in the Virgin Islands that police is the best career you can start with.
Now that fair continues on Thursday, June 30th on St. Croix at UVI Great Hall. It's from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Job seekers are encouraged to dress professionally and be sure to bring your resumes. The Housing Expo, that's coming up this Saturday at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center, and preservation through revitalization is the theme. This is the time for you to learn more about options, win prizes, and talk one-on-one with over 40 exhibitors. There will be a special Price is Right game going on. Now you can win a paint makeover, free landscaping, and a bathroom makeover. St. Croix Expo was held earlier this month. Well, here's an interesting summer camp. The Learn to Dance Institute summer program, it has already kicked off. It is designed to encourage children to explore and learn about the wonderful world of not just dancing, gardening, arts and craft, cooking, sewing, various dance forms, including Latin, ballroom, quadrille, and African and musical instruments. They'll learn to play such as the squash, drums, tambourine, and maracas. The young chefs will be given their personal chef hat and aprons and will learn about our local vegetable trees and fruits like passion fruit, guava, soursop, tamarind, mango. The students will have the opportunity to grow herbs, seasonings, and their own plant and observe the plant development process. Now, it kicked off on June 20th. It's going on until July 22nd. Here's the number to call for details, 690-0857. It's from 9 to 5 daily in Frenchtown. Freedom City Surf Crew, they're thanking supporters of the Freedom City Skate Ramp. Now, many always look forward to utilizing that ramp during the summer as a hangout. However, they have torn it down because they were facing a possible $150,000 fine from DP&R. They say a marshal delivered a notice stating the shop had no permit for the ramp and must pay a $5,000 a day fine or tear it down. The park has been part of the St. Croix community for 3.5 years. Freedom City Surf stated on their Facebook page, "We are complying to the order with the removal of the skate ramp and will work with CZM and DP&R on the correct procedure to rebuild a replacement." Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.